Hi there, Rocky. So we've got a couple of essays from you. Very happy to see them. Let's get right into this, see what you had to say. Okay. Some methods used in advertising are unethical and unacceptable. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Okay. Experts throughout the developing and developed world have debated whether the use of advertising skills is beneficial to our society or not. In spite of the boosting effect of sales figures, the impediments begot by commercials on protecting the environment is now increasingly recognized by the public. This essay will discuss both views and use examples from Hong Kong to demonstrate points. Okay, so here's the thing. There are a couple of elements of this introduction that just don't seem completely relevant to me. Let me tell you what they are. This part is fine, okay, even though it never talks about whether they are beneficial. It talks about whether they are unacceptable and unethical. So I wouldn't say that these are necessarily opposites. Let's see. And then there's something about protecting environment that I don't really understand, okay? So that's the other area. However, this essay doesn't ask you to discuss both views, okay? Instead, what it asks you is to what extent do you agree or disagree? Now, you could potentially discuss both views if you feel that there is merit to both of those views. Okay? But to say that you're going to discuss both views is not really answering the question. They have asked you very specifically, to what extent do you agree or disagree? So what you need to do here is you need to answer that question and say, I agree to some extent, however, there are certain benefits to advertising. Okay? What is this? Get rid of it. Okay. So this is how you need to deal with this type of question, where it asks you to what extent do you agree or disagree. Moving on. To begin with, commercials that are shown on various media are, because it's commercials are intuitively perceived as a key of managing a business. The central reason behind this stems from the fact that the features of a product can be effectively promulgated, which then boosts the sales. In fact, the majority of manufacturers in Hong Kong purchase, all right, yeah, I understand. Purchase, not the prime time of TV channels. It just sounds a little unnatural. Purchase prime television time is basically what you want to say here. To host their advertisements. Okay. Moreover, the color and vibrancy of commercials to a considerable extent embellish. All right, fine. Our cities. Therefore, it is conclusively clear that the employment of advertising skill is likely to foster social development. No, it's not. It's not clear. It's not conclusively clear. Just because people are using advertising time, they're using colors, and they're making our cities vibrant and so forth, it doesn't mean that it fosters societal development. You haven't made this link clear, Rocky. So if you think it fosters societal development, then you need to explain how it does that. The boost in sales and the color and vibrancy that embellishes our cities doesn't show me that it fosters societal development. I feel like you've gone from point A and B all of a sudden to point like K. All right, so you've missed a lot of these in-between steps that kind of link your ideas together. All right, so perhaps for you this is a very, very natural sort of progression of thought, but it's not for every reader, and you have to present your arguments in such a way that you take the reader literally like step by step, as if you're leading the reader by the hand and saying, okay, first we're going to go to point A, and then to point B, and then to C, and then to D, and then so on and so forth. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you is that this is underdeveloped. You haven't supported your ideas well enough. Let's move on. Although there is a case for advertisement benefiting the thriving of both business and society, its detrimental, you need an AL here, effect on waste production cannot be neglected. This is largely because the images that are shown on these commercials are often more palatable and overstated, which in turn lure customers, okay, to purchase goods that are deemed redundant to them. For instance, The Consumer Council established that there has been a surge in lodged complaints about misleading content and advertisement on TV over the past decades. Consistent with this line of thinking, the waste that originates, with an S, from the purchase of unwanted products would have significantly diminished if the connected commercials were prohibited. Thus, it is possible to state beyond doubt that the manipulation of advertising skills tend to weaken the effort spent on environmental protection. Okay, so check out what's happening now. I've now read your 2 body paragraphs. I never saw anywhere this idea of unethical and unacceptable. You basically have taken this to mean the positives of advertising and the negatives of advertising. Yet once again, I will tell you that, excuse me, this is not what the question has asked. So if I were to read this essay without knowing what the task said, gauging from your answer, I would say, okay, well, this is an essay that discusses the benefits and disadvantages of advertising. That's what it sounds like you're answering, but in fact, that is not the question. Okay, the question is, there is this opinion that advertising is unethical and unacceptable. Is it true or false? Or is this true or false? Okay, and then you have to deal with that. You could say, well, it's 30% true, but it's 70% false. It's 50% true, but also 50% false. It's 100% true, or any sort of combination of those proportions. And that's how you need to answer this. You have to deal strictly with this particular issue. Okay? And I haven't seen that you've done this here. So, moving on to your conclusion. In conclusion, the existence of commercials has a vitally important role to play in societal growth and business expansion, yet its harm outweighs its benefits regarding the far-reaching drawback on aggravating waste pollution problems. Given the increasing awareness on environmental protection, it is predicted that the use of advertising skills will be restricted in the foreseeable future. Okay. Based on the essay that you wrote, this is a completely accurate and appropriate conclusion, but as I've already mentioned, I feel your development has not really answered the question as it was stated. So let's go on to your task 1 and see what you said here. Okay. A glimpse on the line graph compares the changing pattern of sales of chips by 2 major manufacturers throughout a year. Okay, do we know the year? Does it say it anywhere? Yes, it does. 2017. Did you mention that it's France? You probably should. So what I would recommend here is to simplify the language a little bit. All right? And not only that, but to kind of make this a stock formulaic phrase, something along the lines of the graph provides information regarding the changing patterns of sales throughout 2017 by 2 major manufacturers, Intel and AMD in France throughout whatever, the course of the year. Something like this would be better. As shown in the information before July, chips originating from Intel eventually outnumbered its AMD counterpart after some fluctuations. In fact, increasing from 50,000 sales in January, the figure of Intel's chip significantly increased to some 100,000 and 125,000 in March and June respectively, despite a dip in April. By contrast, although the sales of AMD chips reached approximately 120,000 in February, its plunge in March resulted in a meager 20,000 in May and a negligible sales record in June. Capitalize your J. Very nice vocabulary. I like the vocabulary that I've read here, as well as the grammar. In stark contrast, the sales of AMD chips, however, recovered considerably in the later, I think you mean the latter with a double T, the latter half of the year, reaching its most remarkable record at over 100,000 chips in July. Evidently, a general decline with slight fluctuations was witnessed in AMD chips over this period to some 30,000 in December, while the selling of Intel chips was getting prominent and ended up with a doubled figure of that of AMD in December. Overall, in respect to the business of selling chips, Intel overtook AMD in the majority of the months. Okay, this is fine. You did something very interesting. You split the year in half. That's actually A nice way to do it, and to be honest with you, it's not a way that I have seen very frequently when correcting this particular essay. I like that you did it. It actually worked for you quite well. So good job with that. It's an appropriate way to do this, I would say. I liked a lot of the language. I liked a lot of the vocabulary. Yeah, there were a couple little areas. Keep in mind that you had you had 24 pieces of data to deal with. I would say that you dealt appropriately with the most important ones. You used good vocabulary, good grammar. I liked your task one quite a bit. Okay, Rocky? So, well done with this. I'm not sure. Do you have more video corrections with us? If you do, then please correct these, return them back to us corrected with your error correction list and your newest essays. I'll be looking forward to what you write next. If not, I wish you lots of luck and can't wait to hear how you do.